Welcome to the Coach Barnabas podcast. It's time to take a few minutes and leave behind the stuff that drains us and recharge our batteries with some encouragement and insight. Finding the extraordinary in the ordinary.
Hi, welcome back. Good to have you back with the Coach Barnabas podcast. It is now episode 8. We're closing in on double digits of episodes. And it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks since I have presented one to you. And I apologize for that. Last week, a little bit under the weather, a little bit of sickness in the house. Over the weekend was healthy enough. It was my birthday, so had a little bit of time with family, celebrating the birthday, which was nice. And then towards the end of the weekend, my actual birthday was on Sunday, and towards the end of the evening, started noticing a little something going on with my eye, and woke up Monday morning with pink eye. And so my eye literally looked like, Mike Tyson had used it as a speed bag. It was very puffy, very red, very gross. So within the last 48 hours or so, tremendous improvement. It's still not 100%, but certainly much better. So I thought today would be a better day to record this. Not because I'm so vain about what I look like, but I think it would have been a distraction if I'd tried to do anything any earlier than today. So I appreciate your understanding and your patience, as it has been a couple weeks since episode 7. So here we are. So it's been an eventful couple of weeks, but it's been good. Everything's fine. We're all good, and I hope you're doing well also. And I kind of, in thinking about what I wanted to discuss with you during this episode, I've had kind of a recurring thought over a course of years about just a topic that I found to be kind of profound when I first thought about it. And I don't know really that it is profound as much as it's something I'd never really thought about. And that is the difference between cost and value. Cost is, obviously, a price tag. You put a price tag on something, and you hear people say a lot of times, you can't put a price on that. And that is, right there is underscoring the difference between the cost of something and the value of something. It came up again over the weekend. We were in church, and we had a guest speaker who was speaking about the prodigal son, if you're familiar with that story. And even if, church isn't your thing, you've probably heard of the prodigal son. And to make a long story short, you have a wealthy man with lots of land and just, it could be anybody, this could be a modern story of anybody who's achieved any degree of wealth and property, land, possessions, maybe, nowadays you talk businesses, empire, all this kind of stuff. And you have a couple of kids, a couple of brothers, and one of them says, you know what, I'm kind of done being your little servant guy. I want to cash out now, and I want to live my life on my own. The father, agrees and cuts him his portion of his inheritance and lets him go off to do life on his own. To which the kid promptly squanders it all and lives this life beyond his means, so to speak, and runs out, and ends up really essentially begging for anything, and ends up basically living with pigs in slop and mud and all this. And so he's traded in his life of luxury for a life of anything but. And eventually he just decides and humbles himself that I'm just going to return home and just pray that my dad will welcome me back as even a servant. I'm not looking to come back and assume my role and have my place in the mansion kind of thing. But just if he'll let me just be a servant, among one of his many servants, I'll be happy with that. Just have a place to call home, a place to live, some degree of stability in his life. And when he returns, the father not only welcomes him home, but just like treats him as if his son were dead and now has returned to life. And so there's a big celebration and a feast, and all this, all the celebration of you might expect for somebody maybe like going off to war or something like that, and maybe you hear that they died tragically or something, and then they show up at your door and they're actually very much alive. That kind of thing. But obviously the circumstances were very different because the son basically, hey, you know what? I want out of this. I want to live my own life. And it comes back with his tail between his legs, admitting that he failed, and expects nothing, wants nothing except for just, some stability in his life, even if it's at the lowest level of the hierarchy, so to speak. So the father, again, welcomes him home, treats him, restores him completely. Now, if you have any siblings, you might expect there to be a little friction from the other brother, which there was. And so the other brother is put off by all this, and it's like, hey, how can you, ask dad and says, how can you let him come home and treat him as if he's some hero when he basically walked away from this? He abandoned everything that you stood for, everything that you built for us, for our family, everything that, you earned, and he squandered it all and brought, hurt our reputation, so a lot of things. And you hear about this a lot of times, even, like I said, in modern days where people are born into wealthy families and don't know how to handle the fame and the notoriety that comes along with that, or just having wealth and being able to do whatever you want with it. And so many people do such horrible things because they have money, and they don't have the maturity to handle it. I mean, this is not a story that's unique to the prodigal son. But here's the brother again. He's all upset because it's like, look, I've been here the whole time, and you've never had a party like this for me. And, I've done everything you've asked of me, and I've not done these things that have brought dishonor to our family name or dishonor to you. What's going on? And the father's like, look, your brother who once was dead is now alive. We should be celebrating. This is a happy thing. If you look out at all this land and all these things, that's all yours. But so the bottom line is the son is counting the cost and saying, this is all the stuff I've done for you. What's in it? How can you do this? I don't understand. And the father says, that's just stuff. You can have that. What's of value to me is that your brother, who I thought was gone forever, has returned home. Value versus cost. Okay. Another concept that the speaker brought up was the idea of forgiveness, in how when you forgive somebody truly, is you accept whatever damage that they have caused. Okay, like he used an example of getting into an accident with your car, or purposefully demolishing your car. Let's say gets a baseball bat or something, starts just banging up your car, the windows and the fenders and the hood and everything else, slashing your tires, and just completely destroying your car, and then regretting it and coming back and asking for your forgiveness. Now you might say, well, I forgive you, but that's going to cost you, after the appraisal, that might cost you $20,000. But taking it a step further than that and saying, I forgive you, you're free of any obligation. I'll pay the cost to have it restored, but I forgive you completely. And that's really, again, there's a cost to doing things. Okay, you can say, okay, the damage to the car can be appraised at a dollar value to restore it. And so there's a cost value, but true forgiveness is completely absolving the person of their responsibility, even if there's a financial number attached to it. And then you are truly free of bitterness and all that other stuff. I've also been thinking about, my wife and I are big true crime fans. And so there's shows that are on, it's become a pretty popular thing. And so there's all kinds of shows, hour, 2-hour long shows where it spotlights a particular crime or murder, something like that around the country, and goes into the whole mystery of who did it, why, and all this other stuff, and they kind of reveal it at the end. And we kind of enjoy those shows, although they're tragic. There's something about trying to solve the mystery and see how this thing turns out. And it's not just a TV show where it's, actors portraying. This is like real life people. And, thinking about sometimes, after they go to court and there's a trial and everything else, sometimes the family of the victim is dissatisfied with the result. The person didn't get as much time as they thought they should have. Maybe they were found not guilty, or maybe there's a mistrial or a hung jury or any number of things that leaves the family of the victim dissatisfied. And, they'll walk away saying, justice wasn't done. We just want justice for our family member, whatever the case may be. And then there are cases where it's like, you know what? I forgive the person who's accused of these crimes or who has done this thing. And now either result doesn't bring the person back, but it frees you of carrying bitterness and anger and all those, attributes that can lock you up for life. There are people who have tragically lost somebody in their lives due to something that was completely avoidable, and it completely derails their life forever. And people can dedicate years and years of their own lives trying to pursue justice or revenge or anything else. And then they basically have exchanged the course their life was on to pursue something else, which may be noble in some respect, but it also becomes, a complete obsession with trying to maybe, again, justice, revenge, any of those things, which may be noble or may be just not anything but. But in any case, it can completely occupy your life, and you become obsessed with it, and you've completely gone away from the path your life was taking, which probably didn't involve years and years or decades of trying to pursue somebody's guilt or whatever, or try to see them locked up forever or get the death penalty or whatever it may be. Anyway, I've kind of gone off here. The whole point is being, the difference between cost and value. So, you can really look at anything in life. We all have bills, and sometimes, you have a bill and it's, my gosh, this is getting more and more expensive. We're in difficult times where the cost of everything has gone up, and you look at your grocery bill, you look at your gas bill. Here in the Northeast, it's heating oil, all this stuff. Everything has gone up, and you have to take time and basically budget and decide what things are essential, what things are luxuries, and what things can I let go, and what things are absolutely necessary to function in life. And that's ascribing value to things. Some things are less valuable, less necessary, less essential in our lives, and other things are absolute musts. And that's, again, ascribing value to something. And even if those costs go up, then you are willing to pay, or, you're willing to pay what it takes to keep that thing in your life. So an example I go back to, and I'm sure I will do it again and again, is considering, how I met my wife. And I've talked about it in a previous episode, how we met online. I'm from California. She's from this itty-bitty little town in the itty-bittiest state in the country, Rhode Island. And the only way our relationship was going to lead anywhere was by one of us leaving the comforts of home to be near the other person, because it's not sustainable to fly 3,000 miles every month or couple months to spend a matter of days together and then fly back home, and then you're separated by all that. And there's no way a relationship can grow and prosper cross-continental like that. So there came a point where I had to decide: do I leave my home that has been my home for my entire life, everything that's familiar, everything that's comfortable, all my memories, all my friends, everything that's familiar is here in this particular area where I lived? Or do I load up my car with everything I can cram in there put into storage whatever it is I can't fit in there, but I'm going to want later, and then move across the country to pursue a dream. And that's ultimately what I did. And it was a matter of saying, there's a cost. I'm willing to pay the cost for something that to me is immensely more valuable. And that's what I did. And since then, it wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination. It was very difficult. It was there were no promises, no guarantees at all, but it was the only way I was going to know if my dream was going to come true, was to pursue it with everything and pay whatever it cost. And some of that was financial, but a lot of it was just lifestyle. Moving away 3,000 miles from everything that was familiar, everyone that was familiar, my entire support system, people I have known since I was, able to talk, to that point in my life. And I was in my late 40s. I was 48 years old when I made the move. And to come to a place where I knew nobody, literally nobody, except for the people I'd come to know through my then girlfriend, who is now my wife. And which was, the people I'd come to know was a very small number, but it's since grown, obviously. But, that's the thing. It's like, I'm willing to pay the cost because the value of my dream is so much greater. And I just kind of wanted to come to you with that and just encourage you to consider the things in your life, the people in your life that are extremely valuable to you. Or maybe it's a literal budgeting and going through your life and deciding what is a luxury and what is essential, and offloading the things that are occupying your time, your money, your heart, relationships, anything in your life that is demanding of you something that you just don't have the bandwidth to offer it anymore. And really it's taking away from your ability to take care of things that are even more valuable. Okay. And it really gets you to focus on those things and those people, those relationships, whatever it may be, and consider the difference between cost and value. Am I willing to keep paying the cost for this that brings me so little value back and is costing me the ability to pursue something that is immensely more valuable to me? Because we have finite resources, whether it's time, money, or anything else. There's a finite supply, and it can only go so far. And so, really just take the time to consider those things. And again, just to go back to, talking about church, is like, thinking about, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in him would have everlasting life. And it's like God loves us, sees such incredible value in us when we don't even value ourselves, we don't value each other, but he valued us so much that he gave his only Son, who was a sacrifice, and gave up his life for us. And we can't wrap our heads around that, because there are very few people in our own lives where we would lay down our lives for somebody else. And believe me, in order to do that, we generally are going to have a relationship with them, maybe kids or parents or siblings. In very few cases is somebody willing to do that for somebody they don't even know. Well, God obviously knows us, but many of us don't know him. And yet he died for the ones, who won't even acknowledge him or deny him or mock him and all those things. So I don't know. I find that really, like I said, is very profound to think in those terms. And so that's kind of what I wanted to just talk to you about, and just really consider the difference between cost and value. Evaluate things in your life. And some people are list makers. Maybe that's what you do, and sit down and make a list and really think about it, and think about the things that you're devoting time and energy and money and all that stuff that just don't deserve what you're having to invest into it. And maybe it's taking away from things that are immensely more valuable, and you look back on and realize, I'm really glad I made that shift because I was able to devote more of what was needed to be able to invest in that, which was more valuable. So that's my word for you today. I just want to remind you, be encouraged and be an encouragement. Thanks so much for joining me, and I look forward to catching you again next time. Take care.
Thank you for joining the Coach Barnabas podcast. We'd greatly appreciate your support by liking and subscribing to the podcast and setting up notifications so we can let you know when new episodes are available. We'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment. Make a difference today.